Before we dive into formulas or charts, we need to understand the foundation of all data, what type of data we're working with. In business statistics, data typically comes in two forms, qualitative and quantitative. Let's start with qualitative data, sometimes called categorical data. This type of data describes qualities or characteristics. For example, the brand of smartphone someone uses, a customer's preferred payment method. Qualitative data helps us group things by category, but it doesn't involve numbers. You can't calculate an average customer service rating that says Apple. It simply doesn't work that way. On the other side, we have quantitative data, which is numerical. This data tells us how much, how many, or how often. For example, total sales. This quarter, number of items in stock. Quantitative data can be broken down even further into two types: discrete data, countable values. Think, the number of employees in a company, you can count them. Continuous data, measurements like weight, time, or revenue. These can take on decimal values and are measured, not counted. Understanding the type of data you have is critical because it determines which statistical methods you can apply. For example, you wouldn't use the same formula to analyze customer satisfaction categories as you would to analyze annual revenue. One involves labels, the other involves numbers. Here's a simple way to remember it. Qualitative, what kind or what type? Quantitative, how much or how many? Sometimes qualitative data is coded as numbers. Think about survey responses where strongly agree is a 5 and strongly disagree is a 1. Even though you see numbers, it's still categorical because the numbers represent labels, not measurable quantities. Every good analysis starts with understanding your data type, because if you get that wrong, everything else can fall apart. We'll break these data types down even further by looking at scales of measurement and why they matter. Now that we know the difference between qualitative and quantitative data, it's time to take things one level deeper with something called scales of measurement. Understanding measurement scales helps you pick the right statistical methods and avoid making misleading conclusions. There are 4 levels you need to know: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Let's start with the most basic one, nominal scale. This is used for labeling or naming things, but there's no order involved. For example, customer gender, product category, country of origin. You can group and count these, but you can't rank them. 1 doesn't mean it's better than 2. Ordinal scale. This is used when the order does matter, but the difference between values is not meaningful. Think about customer satisfaction ratings. Very unsatisfied to very satisfied education levels. High school, bachelor's, master's, PhD. You know, one level is higher than another, but you can't say exactly how much higher. Interval scale. This is where things get more precise. Interval data has a meaningful difference between values, but no true zero. The classic example, temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. 30 degrees Celsius is 10 degrees warmer than 20 degrees Celsius, but you can't say it's 1.5 times hotter because 0 degrees Celsius doesn't mean no temperature. So interval data allows us to add and subtract, but not multiply or divide in a meaningful way. Ratio scale. This is the most informative type. Ratio scales have meaningful intervals and a true 0 point. Examples include revenue, distance, age, time spent on a task. Here, you can say things like, Company A made twice as much revenue as Company B because 0 means none of that quantity exists. So let's recap with a quick framework. When working with data in business statistics, not all numbers are created equal. To analyze data properly, you first need to understand the scale of measurement, that is, how the data was collected and what kind of meaning it carries. There are 4 major scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Let's break each one down. First, nominal. This is the most basic level. Nominal data is used to label or categorize things. It has no order, no direction, and no math involved. For example, product categories like shampoo, conditioner, and lotion departments such as marketing, human resources, and finance, customer types like new, returning, and VIP. These are just names. You can count them, but you can't rank them or do calculations. So remember, nominal means names only. Next, ordinal. Ordinal data involves order or ranking, but the spaces between values are not consistent. For example, satisfaction levels like very dissatisfied, neutral, and very satisfied. Education levels such as high school, bachelor's degree, and master's degree. Survey answers like agree, neutral, and disagree. You can tell which is higher or lower, but you can't say how much higher or lower. That's why we say ordinal means ordered, but without equal spacing. Third, interval. Interval data has equal spacing between values, but no true 0 point. The classic example is temperature. 20 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius are 10 degrees apart, and the spacing is consistent. But 0 degrees Celsius doesn't mean no temperature. It's just another point on the scale. Because there's no true 0, you can't say that 30 degrees is twice as hot as 15. So interval means equal spacing, but no true 0. Finally, ratio. Ratio data has equal spacing and a true 0 point. This is the most powerful type of data because it allows you to do all mathematical operations. For example, revenue, weight, time spent on a website, number of units sold. With ratio data, 0 really means 0. If a customer spent $0, they made no purchase. You can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You can say things like, this customer spent twice as much as that one. So ratio means full math power with equal spacing and a true 0. Understanding the scale of your data helps you choose the right tools and avoid mistakes in analysis. If you apply statistical methods meant for ratio data to nominal data, your results won't make any sense. So before you analyze your data, know what kind of data you're working with. It's the foundation for everything that comes next. Understanding these measurement levels will help you avoid using the wrong tool for the job, kind of like using a butter knife to cut wood. Technically possible, but very messy. In the next lesson, we'll begin exploring descriptive statistics, starting with how to find the center of your data using measures of central tendency like the mean, median, and mode.